Jax Thornwood, a former CIA agent, returned to New York after 5 years of wrongful imprisonment, only to discover his wife and daughter had been murdered by an underworld power from Mexico. He transformed his old apartment into a deadly fortress, setting up traps and weapons to await the first henchman of the crime lord Victor Draven. The initial encounter was dramatic, with Jax taking down 2 scouts with his sharp martial arts skills, marking the first step on his journey of revenge. A torrential rain poured down on New York, turning the streets of Manhattan into muddy rivers under the flashing neon lights. Jax Thornwood stepped out of a worn-out yellow taxi, his tall frame gaunt after 5 years in prison. His messy black hair half covered his angular face, his cold grey eyes scanning the darkness. 5 years ago, he was framed as a traitor to the CIA. But now, freedom was merely a shell concealing a deep wound. His wife, Emily, and their young daughter, Lily, they were dead. Not an accident, but a massacre orchestrated by Victor Draven, the cartel kingpin from Mexico City, to seize classified information Jax once possessed. Jax tightened his grip on his backpack and entered the old apartment building in Harlem. The musty air, mixed with the smell of garbage from the street, assailed him. Apartment 407, once their home, was now just a ruin. The door was wide open, broken furniture scattered across the floor. Jax stood silently, memories flooding back like a sharp blade. He saw Emily lying in a pool of blood, Lily beside her with lifeless eyes. The newspapers called it a home invasion, but Jax knew better. It was a message from Draven: do not reveal the secrets of the cross-border arms trafficking ring. Without hesitation, Jax got to work. He locked the door and drew the pitch-black curtains over the windows. From his backpack, he took out daggers, thin steel wire, and a few disassembled handguns, gifts from old friends in prison. 5 years of training in prison had turned him into a killing machine. His muscles were toned, his reflexes lightning fast. He was once the CIA's top agent, specializing in infiltrating Mexican cartels. But now, he had only one goal: revenge. Jax moved nimbly through the pitch-black room. He strung steel wire across the main door, attaching a sharp blade to the end, under the kitchen floor. He hid a homemade smoke grenade crafted from black market chemicals. The mezzanine, which used to be Lily's room, was now a sniper position with an AR-15 hidden behind a wardrobe. Every corner of the house was a trap, a tripwire that would release a weight from the ceiling, a contact mine in the hallway. Jax did a final check, sweat drenching him under his old, worn leather jacket. He knew they would come. Draven's henchmen always kept an eye on old enemies. Outside, the rain continued to patter. Jax sat motionless by the window, observing the street through a crack in the curtains. A black SUV stopped about 100 meters from the building, its headlights off. 2 men got out, dressed in tight black clothes, moving stealthily like ghosts. They were the scout team. Jax recognized it immediately from the way they scanned their surroundings. He smiled coldly, his hand tightening on the hilt of his knife. "Sooner than I thought," he muttered, not waiting for them to get closer. Jax slipped out the back door, melting into the rainy darkness. He moved like a shadow, his feet making no sound, a skill from his CIA training years in the Mexican jungles. The 2 men were approaching the fence, one of them using binoculars to observe the windows. Jax closed in from behind, throwing a low taekwondo kick to the first man's knee. He buckled, his mouth open, unable to scream. Jax locked him in a jiu-jitsu hold, snapping his neck in an instant. The second man spun around, drawing a handgun. But Jax was faster. He lunged forward, delivering a straight Muay Thai punch to the jaw that sent him staggering. A roundhouse kick to the temple, and the other man collapsed. Jax checked his pulse, then dragged the body into the bushes. From one of the men's phones, Jax read a message, target in Harlem. Inform Draven action tonight. He crushed the phone under his boot and returned to the apartment. His heart was pounding. But not with fear, it was the fire of vengeance. He sat on the floor, holding an old photo of Emily and Lily. His eyes were bloodshot as memories of that fateful night rushed back. 5 years ago, in this very apartment, they were attacked while Jax was on a mission. Draven wanted to eliminate him to cover up his arms, smuggling Ring into the U.S. Jax had survived, but he had lost everything. Now, he would make Draven pay. A strange noise echoed from the street below. Jax stood up, checking his gun. The apartment was ready, and so was he. But would there be more of them than expected? Or was this just the prelude to a bigger storm from Mexico? Which area are you listening to this story from? And what time is it where you are right now? Leave a comment below so I know you are still healthy and fully focused on this story. My dear friend, we will continue right after this. Haunted by the painful memory of the night his wife and child were killed, Jax Thornwood decided to hunt for information at an underground bar in Brooklyn. He confronted a loyal henchman of Victor Draven, forcing him to reveal the location of his son, which led to an intense hand-to-hand battle amidst the smoke and loud music. Jax called an old ally, Rex Harlan, a former Special Forces soldier, for support in the upcoming battles. The chapter ends by uncovering a larger clue about Draven's conspiracy from Mexico City. The strange noise from the street below startled Jax Thornwood, his hand tightening on his handgun. He glided to the window, squinting through the curtain of New York rain. The black SUV was gone, but Jax knew they were just testing the waters. He returned to the floor, picked up the photo of Emily and Lily, and tucked it into his breast pocket. The pain burned like a fire in his chest, but this was no time for weakness. Memories of that fateful night rushed back the apartment, shrouded in darkness. The sound of breaking glass, Emily's screams, and the thick stench of blood. Victor Draven had given the order, all because Jax had once infiltrated his cartel in Mexico and nearly destroyed his arms trafficking ring. Now, Jax needed information, and Brooklyn had dark corners where truths were sold with fists. Jax left the apartment, blending into the crowd in the rain. He wore a baseball cap pulled low, his leather jacket concealing his frame. The Shadows Den bar was located deep in Brooklyn, a den for criminals. A flashing red neon sign hung above the door, and the pounding of electronic music echoed from within. Jax pushed the door open, the air heavy with the smell of cheap liquor and cigarettes. Tattooed men sat around tables, their eyes sizing him up. He walked to the bar, ordered a bourbon, and scanned the room. His target, Miguel Torres, a loyal henchman of Draven, who often came here to collect protection money. Miguel sat in a dark corner, his large frame topped with a shaved head and a long scar across his cheek. He was laughing with two of his cronies. Unaware that Jax was approaching, Jax deliberately bumped his shoulder into their table, spilling a glass of liquor. "Sorry," he said, his voice low but provocative. Miguel looked up, his eyes hostile. "You looking to die?" "You bastard." He stood up, a head taller than Jax, his muscles bulging. The bar fell silent, all eyes turning towards them. Jax smiled coldly. "I just want to ask about Victor Draven and his son, Damon." Miguel froze, then burst out laughing. "What do you know about my boss?" He lunged forward, throwing a hammer-like punch. Jax dodged to the side with lightning speed, using jujitsu to lock his arm and bend the elbow backward. With the crack of bone, Miguel screamed in pain. His two cronies jumped in, one wielding a broken bottle, the other a dagger. Jax released Miguel, throwing a low Muay Thai kick to the knee of the man with the bottle, causing him to buckle. The man with the dagger lunged, But Jax caught his wrist, spun, and threw him over his shoulder onto the floor. The bar erupted in chaos as patrons scrambled to flee, the sound of shattering glass echoing. Miguel recovered, charging at Jax with a flurry of mixed martial arts blows. He landed a heavy punch to Jax's chest, forcing him back with a sharp pain. Jax gritted his teeth and countered with a straight punch to the jaw, followed by a roundhouse kick to the temple. Miguel staggered, blood dripping from his mouth. "Who are you?" he growled. Jax pinned him against the wall, a knife to his throat. "I'm Jax Thornwood. Now, talk. Where is Damon Draven, and why did Victor target my family?" Miguel gasped, trying to resist. But a punch to the ribs made him collapse. He's in Mexico City, pulling the strings remotely. Your apartment was on a smuggling route. Damon was the one who handled your wife and daughter. Hearing Damon's name, Jax tensed, a fire of rage exploding within him. He tightened his grip on the knife, making a thin cut on Miguel's cheek. More details. Miguel confessed everything. Damon was at a warehouse in Queens, preparing a new arms shipment. Jax released him, but not out of mercy. A single shot from a silenced Glock ended everything, and Miguel crumpled to the floor. His two cronies tried to escape, but Jax was quick, throwing a dagger that hit one in the back, then breaking the other's neck with a kick. The bar was now filled with only smoke and bloodstains on the floor. Jax slipped out the back door, disappearing into the rainy darkness. Back at the apartment, Jax sat down, his hands trembling slightly as he checked the minor wound on his chest. The information from Miguel was a start, but he needed backup. He took out a disposable phone and dialed an old number. "Rex, I need you," he said curtly. On the other end of the line, Rex Harlan's calm, deep voice replied, "I'm on my way. My friend, tell me about these bastards from Mexico." Jax briefly told him about Draven, the deaths of Emily and Lily, and his plan for revenge. Rex, a former Special Forces soldier who had fought alongside Jax on the Mexican border, agreed immediately. "I'm bringing weapons. Meet in Harlem before dawn." Jax hung up and looked out the window. The rain was still falling, but within him, the real storm was brewing. Damon Draven would be the next target. And from there, the path would lead to Victor. But would Rex arrive before more henchmen showed up, or was the arms smuggling conspiracy larger than he thought? The darkness of New York swallowed everything. But Jax was ready to dive in. With the information from Miguel, Jax Thornwood and his ally Rex Harlan prepared to defend the apartment as Victor Draven's reconnaissance team attacked. The homemade traps were activated, leading to an intense battle of smoke, fire, and close combat, where Jax took down multiple enemies but sustained a minor shoulder wound. He forced a surviving henchman to reveal Draven's larger plan from Mexico City, involving arms smuggling through the New York port. This clue uncovered a deeper layer of conspiracy, pushing Jax into a greater hunt. The darkness of New York swallowed everything. But Jax Thornwood wasn't sleeping. He stood by the window, his eyes scanning the pattering rain on the street, waiting. The information from Miguel still echoed in his mind. Damon Draven was in Queens, preparing an arms shipment. But before he could attack, Jax needed to fortify his position. A soft knock sounded on the door, a familiar Morse code from their time on the Mexican border. He opened it, and Rex Harlan stepped in, his powerful build cloaked in a soaked jacket, a metal case in his hand. "You look like you just got back from hell, Jax," Rex said, his voice deep and gravelly. Jax smirked. "Hell is about to come here. What did you bring?" Rex opened the case, revealing an M4 rifle, 2 Glocks, and a set of combat knives. Enough to make those guys from Mexico regret it. The two had been through life and death together in the border desert, where they had dismantled one of Victor Draven's cartel operations. Now, in the apartment turned fortress. They planned. Jax spread a map of New York on the table, pointing to Harlem. They'll send a recon team first. I've set trapped steel wire at the door. Smoke grenades under the floor. Homemade mines in the backyard. Rex nodded, checking the M4. I'll cover the mezzanine. Sniper position. You handle close combat. Jax tightened his grip on his dagger. And if we catch one alive, we make him talk about Damon. Suddenly, a noise came from the alley. Jax turned off the lights and signaled for Rex to hide behind a wall. A black SUV pulled up, and 3 men got out, carrying rifles and binoculars. They moved carefully, scanning their surroundings. Draven's recon team. Jax whispered, "You want to play? I'll play." He slipped out the back door, melting into the cold rain. Rex climbed to the mezzanine, taking his sniper position. Jax circled behind the group, his steps silent. One man was observing the window through binoculars. Unaware as Jax closed in, he delivered a taekwondo kick to the back of his neck, and the man collapsed. The other 2 were startled and raised their rifles, but Jax lunged, using jiu-jitsu to lock the second man's arm, snapping his wrist. A sharp crack echoed as the man screamed. The third man fired wildly, but Jax rolled away, delivering a Muay Thai punch to his stomach that made him double over. The third man fled into the dark alley. Jax didn't pursue immediately, instead picking up an enemy rifle and climbing onto a nearby roof. From above, he aimed through the scope. The scout was panting, thinking he had escaped. Jax fired a suppressed shot, and the bullet pierced his shoulder, causing him to fall with a groan. Jax slid down, pinned him, and held a knife to his throat. "How many did Draven send?" he growled. The man panicked. 10. 10 more. They're coming tonight. Damon's leading them. Jax tightened his grip on the knife, his eyes flashing with rage at the mention of Damon, the killer of Emily and Lily. He broke the man's arm, leaving him with a message: "Tell Victor, I'm waiting." Then he vanished into the rain. Returning to the apartment, Jax informed Rex, "There are more of them. Damon is leading the team." Rex smirked. "Good. I brought extra grenades." They added more traps, a shotgun hidden behind the door, blades in the hallway ceiling. Jax checked the scratch on his shoulder from the earlier punch. It was bleeding, but he ignored it. The memory of Emily flooded back, the pain burning like a fire. "I won't let them take another life," he muttered. Rex clapped him on the shoulder. "We're going to make Mexico City shake." Headlights flashed in the rain. 3 SUVs sped toward them, and 10 assassins poured out, led by Damon Draven, tall, with a scarred face and eyes as cold as his father's. They spread out, advancing into the yard. One of them stepped on a homemade mine. An explosion tore through the night, sending his body flying. The rest panicked, taking cover behind the vehicles. Jax activated the smoke grenades, and white smoke enveloped everything. He burst out the back door, his knife flashing. One man was in range. Jax closed in, delivering a taekwondo kick to his chest that sent him flying into a wall. Before he could scream, Jax slit his throat with the knife. 2 men heard the noise and fired into the smoke. Jax rolled to avoid the bullets and threw a knife that hit one in the forehead. The other panicked and fired wildly, but Jax circled behind him and took him down with a headshot from his handgun. Blood splattered, washed away by the rain. Inside, Damon led 5 men to break down the door. As the door burst open, a weight fell from the ceiling, crushing one of them. They raised their guns, but the smoke was thick. From the mezzanine, Rex sniped, taking down 2 men in a flash. Jax charged in from the hallway, unleashing a Muay Thai combo, a punch to the jaw, a kick to the knee, an elbow to the throat. One man fell, blood gurgling from his mouth. Damon roared. "Find him, kill him," he fired repeatedly, and a bullet grazed Jax's shoulder. Soaking his shirt with blood, Jax gritted his teeth, rolled behind a cabinet, and then threw a flashbang. The blinding light disoriented the assassins. He lunged forward, using jujitsu to lock one man's arm and snap his neck. Another swung a knife. Jax dodged and delivered a capoeira kick to his face, sending him crashing into a wall. Only Damon was left. He drew his gun and fired, but Jax dodged and landed a roundhouse kick to his chest. Damon fell through the window into the yard but was still alive. Jax jumped down after him, pinned him, and held a knife to his throat. "Who killed my wife and daughter?" Damon laughed sinisterly. "I did, and I enjoyed it." Jax punched him repeatedly in the face, each punch carrying 5 years of pain. But he stopped, tying him to a chair inside the house. "Tell me everything." Under the dim light, Damon confessed Victor was in Mexico City and had sent an elite team to New York to finish Jax because he knew about the arms smuggling route through the port. He also revealed that a former CIA colleague had betrayed Jax, helping Draven. Jax left him, knowing the cartel would silence him. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Rex came down. "You're wounded." Jax wiped the blood from his shoulder. "Not dead yet. Now, it's Queen's turn." But was the betrayal from the CIA a trap? The New York rain continued to fall, heralding a larger battle to come. Jax Thornwood discovered the betrayal of his former CIA colleague, Silas Crow, leading to a dramatic chase through the streets of New York. An intense battle of fists and firearms ensued, ending with Jax capturing Silas and obtaining data on Victor Draven's stronghold in Mexico City. Rex Harlan arrived just in time to save Jax's life, uncovering a deeper layer of conspiracy related to arms smuggling. This information pushed Jax to decide to move to Mexico to launch a direct assault. The New York rain continued to patter, washing away the blood on the apartment floor. But Jax Thornwood didn't stop. He wiped the wound on his shoulder. The bleeding had stopped, but a sharp pain served as a reminder. The information from Damon Draven still echoed in his mind. A former CIA colleague had turned traitor, helping Victor Draven conceal an arms trafficking ring. "A traitor from the CIA," Jax muttered, his eyes darkening. He once believed the CIA was his second family, but now it was just a web of deceit. From the corner of the room, Rex Harlan checked his gun. "Queens could be a trap. I'm going with you." Jax nodded, gripping his dagger tightly. "The traitor's name is Silas Crow. He's in Midtown, at the old office. I need him alive to talk." The two men left the apartment, melting into the city's shadows. Jax drove an old car borrowed from Rex, speeding through the muddy streets. Midtown was bustling despite the late hour, neon lights reflecting on the wet pavement. The clandestine CIA office was located in a glass skyscraper, where Silas had once worked with Jax. He stopped the car 100 meters away. Observing, Silas emerged from a side door, dressed in a black suit and carrying a briefcase, clearly leaving in a hurry. "He knows we're hunting him," Jax whispered. Rex nodded. "I'll provide cover from a distance." "Go." Jax bolted from the car, chasing Silas through the crowd. Silas glanced back, his eyes filled with panic, then ran for his life into a dark alley. Jax accelerated, his feet splashing through puddles. "Stop, Silas," he yelled, but Silas pulled out a handgun and fired back over his shoulder. The bullet grazed Jax's ear, the sound echoing in the alley. Jax rolled for cover behind a dumpster, drawing his Glock to return fire. 2 deafening shots rang out, but Silas dodged skillfully and continued running into a night market. Red lanterns hung in the air, the smell of street food mingling with exhaust fumes. Jax closed in, dashing past stalls and knocking over a basket of fruit. Silas turned and threw a surprise punch, but Jax dodged aside, using jujitsu to lock his arm. "You betrayed me for Draven's money," Jax snarled, twisting his elbow back. Silas screamed but kicked low at Jax's knee, making him stumble. He broke free, drew a dagger from his belt, and lunged with lightning speed. Jax dodged, delivering a Muay Thai kick to Silas's stomach, sending him staggering back into a wall. Blood trickled from his mouth. But Silas grinned wickedly. "You don't know anything." Thornwood. "Victor has connections high up in the U.S. government." He lunged forward with a flurry of MMA-style blows, punching Jax in the chest and aggravating his old wound. Jax gritted his teeth, countering with a straight punch to the jaw, followed by a roundhouse kick to the temple. Silas fell to the muddy ground but rolled over, pulling his gun and firing repeatedly. Jax dove behind a nearby truck, bullets ricocheting off the metal with a clang. Car horns blared as the panicked crowd scattered. Jax leaped onto the hood of the truck, then launched himself down onto Silas, applying a jujitsu chokehold. "Talk, where is Draven's stronghold?" Silas gasped. "Struggling Mexico City. The Polanco district. But you'll be dead first." He bit down, activating a device in his pocket, a distress signal. Suddenly, 2 black cars sped in from the end of the alley, Draven's henchmen pouring out, assault rifles at the ready. Jax pulled Silas up as a human shield, firing back with his Glock. A bullet hit one of the men, and he collapsed. The others opened fire, bullets whizzing by as Jax rolled behind the car, dragging Silas with him. "You're going to tell me everything," he roared. Silas tried to struggle, but Jax punched him in the face, sending blood flying. An assassin closed in, slashing with a knife. Jax dodged and delivered a taekwondo kick to his chest, sending him flying into a wall. Another fired from a distance, the bullet grazing Jax's arm, soaking his sleeve with blood. Pain flared, but Jax didn't stop, throwing his dagger and hitting one of them in the neck, causing him to crumple. Outnumbered, Jax was cornered. Silas sneered, "You're finished." But the crack of a sniper rifle echoed from a nearby rooftop. Rex Harlan had arrived, his M4 firing in rapid succession, taking down 2 men in an instant. "I'm late to the party," Rex yelled, sliding down from the roof and joining the fight. He landed a Muay Thai punch on one man's face, then used his knife to slit another's throat. Jax seized the opportunity, locking Silas's hands and cuffing him with a zip tie from his pocket. "Thanks, Rex." Rex nodded. "Now let's deal with him." They dragged Silas into a nearby abandoned warehouse. Under the dim glow of a street lamp, Jax pressed a knife to his throat. "The data on Mexico City." "Talk." Silas, his face bloody, gasped for air. In the briefcase, a map of Draven's stronghold, and a list of arms shipments through the port of New York. Jax opened the case, taking out a USB drive and some documents. The information was detailed. Victor was hiding out in a villa in Polanco, Mexico City, with an elite team of mercenaries. But there was a deeper layer of betrayal. A U.S. official was providing protection. Jax clenched his fists, memories of Emily and Lily flooding back, his rage burning like a fire. "You're going to die slowly," he said. But Rex stopped him. "Leave him for the cops. We need to stay alive to hunt Draven." The sound of approaching police sirens echoed as Jax and Rex left the unconscious Silas and disappeared into the night. In the car on the way back, Jax examined the data. A major arms shipment was arriving at the port of New York, linked to a planned attack. "We have to go to Mexico," Jax said, his voice firm. Rex nodded. But first, we deal with the port. New York City was still bustling. But inside Jack's, a storm of vengeance was brewing. Was Draven's stronghold the final trap, or did the betrayal run even deeper than he imagined, traveling to Mexico City? Jax Thornwood infiltrated a cartel hotspot, going undercover to approach Lyra Voss, Victor Draven's daughter, who suspected her father and could potentially be an inside source. A fierce knife and jiu-jitsu fight broke out when his cover was blown. But Jax escaped with vital information about a major arms shipment. Internal conflict between justice and revenge surged within Jax, making him contemplate the line between personal vengeance and stopping a larger conspiracy. This lead paved the way for a plan to launch a direct assault on Draven's stronghold. New York City was still bustling, but Jax Thornwood had left it behind. On a plane bound for Mexico City, he sat motionless, staring out the window at a sea of white clouds. The data from Silas Crow still haunted him. Victor Draven's stronghold was in the luxurious Polanco district, from where he controlled a cross-border arms trafficking ring. Jax clenched his fist, the wound on his arm still aching from the chase. Deal with the New York port first. He had told Rex Harlan before they parted ways. Rex stayed behind to watch the shipment, while Jax went to Mexico alone, where it all began and where it would end. But was he walking into a trap? Or would his brand of vigilante justice turn the tables? Jax landed at Benito Juarez Airport, the sweltering Mexico City air hitting him like a challenge. He rented an old car and drove through the crowded streets, the blare of horns mixing with the smell of street food. The target, El Toro Rojo, an underground bar in the Zona Rosa district, a known cartel gathering spot. According to the intel, Lyra Voss, Draven's daughter, frequented the place. She worked at a law firm but was suspicious of her father and could be the key. Jax disguised himself as an American businessman, wearing a grey suit with his hair neatly combed, concealing his operative identity. He entered the bar, where dim red lights illuminated a tattooed crowd and loud mariachi music played. Lyra sat at the bar, her long black hair flowing freely, her sharp blue eyes scanning the room. She wore a tight black dress, looking like a businesswoman. But Jax noticed the tension in her posture. She was watching someone. He approached, ordered a shot of tequila, and intentionally bumped into her lightly. "Excuse me, señorita. You look like you're waiting for someone," Jax said in fluent Spanish, his voice low and warm. Lyra turned, her eyes suspicious but not hostile. "Maybe I'm waiting for trouble." "Who are you?" Jax smiled. "Just an American looking for business opportunities. I hear Victor Draven has a lot of influence around here." Lyra tensed up but quickly concealed it. "My father, what do you know about him?" They talked, with Jax skillfully probing for information. Lyra revealed a little. She suspected her father of smuggling weapons, and her mother had left because she couldn't stand it. "I don't want to be involved," she whispered, her eyes turning red. Jax sensed an opportunity. She could be an insider. But suddenly, a large man rushed from a corner of the bar, recognizing Jax from a photo sent by Draven. "You're Thornwood. The boss wants your head." The man drew a dagger and lunged straight at him. Jax dodged, using jiu-jitsu to lock the man's arm and twist his elbow back. A bone snapped, and the man screamed. The bar erupted into chaos as patrons scattered. Two other men jumped in, one wielding a broken bottle, the other drawing a handgun. Jax released the first man and delivered a low Muay Thai kick to the knee of the one with the bottle, causing him to buckle. The gunman fired, but Jax rolled away, leaped onto the bar, and landed a roundhouse kick to his jaw. The gun fell, and Jax jumped down, using the man's own dagger to slit his throat. Blood sprayed out, staining the wooden floor red. Lyra screamed but didn't run. She pulled a small pistol from her purse and shot a man who was trying to ambush Jax in the shoulder. "Who are you?" "Really?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jax pulled her behind the counter. I'm the one hunting Draven, and you can help. The remaining henchmen swarmed in, 4 of them armed with knives and iron pipes. Jax charged out. Unleashing a taekwondo combo, a kick to one man's chest sent him flying into a table. The second man swung his pipe. Jax dodged. Used a jiu-jitsu throw to slam him to the floor. Then followed up with a Muay Thai punch to the face. Blood splattered. And he collapsed. But another man stabbed him from behind, the knife grazing Jax's back, soaking his shirt with blood. Pain surged through him as Jax spun around, delivering an elbow strike to the man's nose, shattering the bone. The last one rushed in with a long knife. Jax grabbed his wrist, twisted it, and plunged the blade into his thigh. He crumpled, and Jax pinned him down. Where is Draven? What's the plan? The man gasped. Polanco. The villa. The big shipment arrives in New York next week. Jax knocked him unconscious and turned to Lyra. She was trembling but resolute. I know my father is a monster. Here. This USB drive. It's the shipping manifest. Jax took it and did a quick check details on weapons moving from Mexico to the U.S., implicating officials. Why are you helping me? He asked. Lyra looked down. For my mother. And for justice. Jax nodded. But his mind was full of doubt. A betrayal could be a trap. He pulled her out the back door and into the Mexico City night. Distant police sirens wailed. But Jax was already gone. On the way back to his hotel, he pondered revenge for Emily and Lily. Or stopping a major conspiracy, the internal torment cut like a knife. But he knew he had to keep going. The USB revealed more. Draven had an elite security team. And Lyra could be the key. But what if she betrayed him? Mexico City swallowed its secrets. And Jax was ready to dive deeper, returning to New York. Jax Thornwood and Rex Harlan faced a massive assault from Victor Draven's forces. A relentless sequence of sniping, grenades, and martial arts unfolded, with unexpected assistance from Lyra Voss, Draven's daughter. Jax was severely wounded but managed to take down Damon Draven, forcing him to confess the massive arms smuggling conspiracy. This information uncovered a deeper layer of the plot, pushing Jax towards a plan for a direct assault on the stronghold in Mexico City. Jax Thornwood emerged from the shadows of Mexico City, his heart still pounding after the knife fight at the bar. The USB drive from Lyra Voss felt heavy in his pocket, containing the list of arms shipments from Mexico to New York. He drove back to his hotel, reflecting on her words, "My father is a monster." Could Lyra be trusted? Or was this another trap? Like Silas Crow, Jax called Rex Harlan on a secure line. "I've got intel. A big shipment is hitting the New York port next week. I'm on my way back." Rex's reply was brief. "I'm watching the port. They're on the move." Jax. Draven's army is heading to Harlem. Jax hung up and boarded the plane, his mind filled with anxiety. Vengeance for Emily and Lily was now intertwined with a larger mission, stopping the flow of weapons. But the line between justice and hatred was blurring. Jax landed in New York at dawn, the biting cold seeping through his jacket. He drove to the Harlem safe house, where Rex was waiting. The apartment was still a fortress: tripwires, smoke grenades, and homemade mines. Rex clapped him on the shoulder. "You look tired." "What's the word from Mexico?" Jax handed him the USB, the shipping manifest. "Victor plans to sell the weapons to domestic terrorists." They began to plan. But suddenly, a noise echoed from the street below. Jax looked out. 3 black vans were speeding toward them, carrying a cartel army, 15 assassins, led by Damon Draven, his scarred face filled with hatred. "They knew I was coming back," Jax growled. Rex grabbed his rifle. "Let's get this started." The army fanned out, closing in on the apartment. One of them stepped on a mine in the front yard. The explosion tore through the night, sending his body flying. blood mixing with dirt. The rest panicked, taking cover behind the vans. Jack's remotely triggered smoke grenades, and white smoke enveloped the area. He charged down to the first floor, Glock in hand. Damon roared, "Find Thornwood, the boss wants him alive." The main door burst open, and a weight trap fell from the ceiling, crushing one of the men. They raised their guns, but the smoke was too thick. From the mezzanine, Rex opened fire with his sniper, the M4 cracking repeatedly, taking down 3 men in an instant. Jax plunged into the chaos, landing a taekwondo kick to one man's chest, sending him flying into a wall. Before he could get up, Jax slit his throat with a dagger. 2 men heard the commotion and opened fire with their machine guns. Jax rolled away and threw a flashbang. A blinding light disoriented them. He rushed forward, using jujitsu to lock one man's arm and snap his neck. Another swung an iron pipe. Jax dodged and delivered a Muay Thai punch to his jaw, shattering the bone. Blood pooled on the floor. The smell of gunpowder thick in the air. But they were outnumbered, and a man stabbed him from behind, the knife grazing his back and soaking his shirt with blood. Pain flared as he spun around, landing an elbow strike on the man's nose, and he collapsed. Damon charged into the house, firing his handgun repeatedly. A bullet grazed Jax's shoulder, spraying blood. But he gritted his teeth, rolled behind a kitchen counter, and returned fire with a shotgun. The blast hit Damon in the thigh. He screamed and buckled. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the back door, Lyra Voss, dressed in black, a pistol in her hand. "I followed you from Mexico," she whispered, shooting a man who was sneaking up on Jax. "What are you doing here?" Jax growled. "Pulling her into cover," Lyra replied, "to prove myself. My father has to be stopped." She opened fire, taking down 2 men in the smoke. Jax nodded, still suspicious but accepting the help. She had just saved his life. Rex yelled from above, "There are too many of them." A grenade from the cartel exploded in a corner, shrapnel embedding in Rex's leg. He collapsed but kept firing his sniper rifle. Jax charged out, unleashing a capoeira sequence, a spinning kick to one man's face, then using his knife to stab another in the chest. Blood sprayed, making the floor slick. Damon took advantage of the chaos and escaped into the hallway. Jax gave chase, the wounds on his shoulder and back burning like fire. But hatred drove him on. "You killed my wife and child," he screamed. Lunging forward, Damon turned, swinging a long knife in a powerful stab. Jax dodged and used a jiu-jitsu throw to slam him to the floor. The 2 rolled on the ground, trading brutal punches and kicks. Damon punched Jax's wound, making it bleed profusely. But Jax locked him in a chokehold. "Talk," Damon gasped, his face turning purple. "My father. He's selling weapons to American extremists. The shipment at the New York port. It's meant to cause chaos." Jax squeezed harder, then stopped, tying him up with a zip tie. "You'll live to see Victor fall." The remaining henchmen retreated at the sound of approaching sirens. Jax sat down, gasping for breath, the floor wet with blood. Rex limped over, his leg injured. "You okay?" Jax nodded, looking at Lyra. "Thanks. But if you betray me..." Lyra shook her head. "I'm on your side." Jax checked on Damon. He was unconscious but alive. The information from him confirmed the USB drive a major conspiracy. Weapons for terrorists. A wave of internal conflict washed over him. His personal revenge was now tied to thousands of lives. Jax stood up, wiping away the blood. Now for the port of New York, then Mexico City. But was Lyra truly loyal, or had Draven planned for this? New York City was bathed in the light of dawn, but the storm was far from over. Discovering a major conspiracy involving the U.S. government, Jax Thornwood infiltrated the port of New York to intercept an arms shipment from Victor Draven. A fierce battle in the rain against elite assassins ensued, interspersed with flashbacks to Jax's past as an operative. Rex Harlan was captured, forcing Jax to rescue him in a dramatic showdown, during which he received unexpected support from Lyra Voss. This lead revealed an even deeper layer of betrayal, pushing Jax to the decision to assault the stronghold in Mexico City. New York City was shrouded in a grey dawn, but Jax Thornwood found no rest. The wounds on his shoulder and back were still oozing blood from the fight at the safe house. But he sped toward the port, the USB from Lyra Voss feeling heavy in his pocket. The intel from Damon Draven confirmed it. A massive arms shipment from Mexico was arriving, not just for smuggling, but to supply American extremist factions, with protection from a government official. "This conspiracy is bigger than I thought," Jax muttered, the memory of Emily and Lily cutting like a knife. He had once been a CIA operative, infiltrating Mexican cartels, but was framed when he got too close to a shadow power. Now, personal revenge was mixed with a mission of prevention. But would he have the strength? Jax called Rex Harlan. "I'm at the port." "Are you watching?" Damon Rex replied. "He's still out, but I'm in position. Draven's forces are on the move. Be careful." Jax parked the car 100 meters from the port, blending into the shadows of the massive shipping containers. The port of New York was vast, the smell of sea salt mixing with machine oil, the sounds of crashing waves and noisy cranes filling the air. Rain began to fall, turning the ground into a muddy mess. According to the USB data, the shipment was in Sector 5, in a red container marked MX-47, disguised as a dock worker, wearing a hard hat. Jax slipped through a chain-link fence. His heart pounded as he recalled his first mission on the Mexican border desert rain. The crack of gunfire, and the first time he killed a man to survive. Suddenly, headlights flashed on. A group of cartel assassins appeared. 6 elite operatives from Mexico, armed with assault rifles and daggers, guarding the container. They moved with professional precision, their eyes scanning the surroundings. Jax hid behind a crate, drawing his silenced Glock. One of them moved closer. Jax darted out, delivering a low Muay Thai kick to his knee, causing him to buckle. Before he could scream, Jax locked him in a jiu-jitsu chokehold and snapped his neck. 2 others heard the noise and opened fire. Jax rolled away, the rain making the bullets skid, then fired a precise shot into one man's chest. Blood mixed with the rain, staining the ground red. The third man slashed with a knife. Jax dodged and landed a straight punch to his jaw, shattering the bone. He fell, and Jax finished him with a dagger to the chest. But their numbers were high. The remaining 3 surrounded him. One threw a grenade. Jax leaped away as the explosion rocked the container, sending metal fragments whistling through the air. A bullet grazed Jax's arm, drawing more blood with a sharp sting of pain. He gritted his teeth and charged the nearest man, unleashing a taekwondo combination, a kick to the chest, followed by a roundhouse kick to the temple. The man dropped, but the second one punched his old wound, making Jax stagger. Memories flooded back in Afghanistan. He'd been severely wounded but survived, thanks to his comrades now. He was alone. Jax countered, using a capoeira spinning kick to the face that sent the man flying into the container. The last man pulled out a machine gun and fired relentlessly. Jax rolled behind a crate, threw a dagger that hit the man's hand, causing the gun to fall. He lunged forward, used a judo throw to take him down, then shot him in the head with his Glock. Jax opened the MX-47 container. Inside were crates full of weapons, rifles, grenades, even small missiles. He took photos and sent them to Rex, but a scream echoed from a dead man's radio. "Rex Harlan has been captured. They know you're here." Jax froze, Rex had been ambushed at the apartment. "Damn it," he roared. Rushing out of the port, in the pouring rain, he drove toward Harlem, his heart filled with fury. Memories of his past as an agent surfaced. He had once saved a comrade in Mexico, but lost Emily because of a shadow organization. This time, he couldn't lose Rex. Arriving at the apartment, Jax found the door wide open. Signs of a struggle everywhere. His phone rang an unknown number. The voice of Damon Draven. "Thornwood. You want your friend alive? Come to the warehouse in Queens." Alone, Jax gripped the steering wheel and sped toward Queens. The abandoned warehouse was pitch black, the rain coming down like a waterfall. He stepped inside. Glock at the ready. Inside, Rex was tied to a chair, his face covered in blood, surrounded by 4 assassins led by Damon, whose thigh was still bandaged from their last encounter. "You came," Damon sneered. "Drop the gun, or he dies." Jax dropped his gun but lunged forward like a panther. One man swung an iron pipe. Jax dodged and delivered a Muay Thai kick to his stomach, causing him to double over. The second man drew a knife and lunged, but Jax caught his hand, twisting it back with jiu-jitsu until the bone snapped. Blood splattered as the man screamed. Damon fired from a distance, the bullet grazing Jax's leg, but he rolled, picked up the iron pipe, and swung it into the third man's face, knocking him out cold. The last man charged with a long knife. Jax used a taekwondo roundhouse kick to his wrist, dislodging the knife, then finished him with a straight punch to the chest. Damon roared and charged in, unarmed. The two engaged in a fierce battle. Damon punched Jax's wound, blood flowing freely, but Jax countered with a judo elbow strike to the jaw, making him stagger. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed from the doorway. Lyra Voss appeared, shooting Damon in the shoulder. "I followed you," she yelled, rushing in to help. Jax nodded, pulling Rex away. Lyra held Damon off, but he managed to escape into the darkness. Jax checked on Rex. "You okay?" Rex smirked. "Not dead yet. They've been exposed. American officials are protecting Draven." Jax clenched his fist, tragic memories flooding back. His brand of shadow justice now involved the entire nation. Now, to Mexico City, to finish Victor. But was Lyra hiding something? The New York rain continued to fall, heralding the final battle to come. With Lyra Voss as his inside source, Jax Thornwood planned an assault on Victor Draven's stronghold in Mexico City. A series of stealth assassinations and intense firefights ensued, but an unexpected betrayal led to a deadly trap. Jax escaped thanks to survival skills from his past as an agent and began a pursuit of Draven across the arid desert. This trail revealed a deeper layer of conspiracy, pushing Jax toward a decisive battle. The New York rain was still pattering as Jax Thornwood, Rex Harlan, and Lyra Voss boarded a plane to Mexico City. The decision to attack Victor Draven's stronghold in the luxurious Polanco district weighed heavily on Jax's mind. The data from the port had revealed a deep layer of betrayal. American officials were providing protection, and Draven was planning a major attack to seize control of the border. Jax looked at Lyra. "Are you sure about your father?" She nodded, her eyes resolute. "He must be stopped. I have the codes to get into the villa." Rex checked his gun. "I'll provide cover from outside. You and her handle the stealth assassination." Jax tightened his grip on his dagger, memories of Emily and Lily driving him. His shadow justice was now a fight for survival. They landed in Mexico City at dusk, the air thick with humidity and exhaust fumes. Jax rented a car and drove through the crowded streets to Polanco, where Draven's villa was hidden behind high walls and cameras. Lyra led the way, using a code to open a side gate. "My father is meeting with his elite henchmen tonight," she whispered. Jax and Lyra slipped into the back garden, melting into the shadows of the dense foliage. Rex was outside, his sniper rifle ready. Jax moved like a ghost, his steps silent, a skill honed from years of infiltrating cartels. They approached the meeting room window, where Draven was talking to 6 assassins. A map of weapons spread across the table. Jax signaled for Lyra to stay put and slipped in through a back door. Inside, the air was heavy with the smell of cigars and tequila. He hid behind a curtain, drawing his dagger. An assassin on patrol walked by. Jax closed in, delivering a low Muay Thai kick to the man's knee, causing him to buckle. Before he could scream, Jax locked him in a jiu-jitsu chokehold, snapping his neck. The body fell softly, and Jax dragged it into a dark corner. 2 other men heard the noise and turned. Jax burst out, throwing a knife that struck one man in the chest, spraying blood. The other drew a silenced pistol and fired, but Jax rolled away, delivering a straight punch to his jaw that shattered the bone. As he fell, Jax cut his throat to finish him. The small noise attracted Draven, who roared, "We have an intruder." The meeting room erupted into chaos as the remaining 4 men raised their rifles. Jax activated a smoke grenade hidden in his pouch, and white smoke filled the room. He charged in, unleashing a taekwondo combination. A kick to one man's chest sent him flying into a table. The second man swung a knife. Jax dodged, used a judo throw to slam him to the floor, then delivered a Muay Thai punch to his face. Blood pooled as the man collapsed, but one man fired from a distance, the bullet grazing Jax's arm, adding more blood to his old wound. A surge of pain washed over him. He gritted his teeth, leaped onto the table, and delivered a roundhouse kick to the third man's temple. He crumpled to the ground. The last man rushed forward with an iron pipe. Jax caught it, twisted it around, and plunged it into his stomach. Draven pulled out a machine gun, firing relentlessly into the smoke. Jax rolled to avoid the bullets and charged at him. The 2 engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Draven landed a heavy punch to Jax's chest, forcing him back. But Jax countered with an elbow to the nose, sending blood flying. "You'll die for touching me," Draven roared, throwing a low kick. Jax dodged and used a capoeira spinning kick to his thigh, making Draven kneel. But suddenly, Lyra burst in through the door, her gun aimed at her father. "Stop." Father Draven froze. "Daughter, you betray me," Lyra trembled. "You've killed too many people." She pulled the trigger, but Draven dodged quickly, punching her hand and knocking the gun away. He pulled Lyra in front of him as a shield, sneering, "You've lost, Thornwood." Jax froze a betrayal from Lyra. "No." Her eyes were filled with panic. But the situation was a trap. Draven activated an alarm, and forces from outside the villa swarmed in 10 elite assassins, rifles at the ready. Jax lunged to save Lyra, delivering a Muay Thai kick to Draven's arm, forcing him to release her. But bullets whizzed by. Jax pulled Lyra behind a table and returned fire with his Glock. His shots hit 2 men, and they collapsed. From outside, Rex sniped through the window, taking down 3 more. But he was being surrounded. "Jax, fall back!" Rex yelled over the comms. Jax threw a flashbang grenade, and a blinding light filled the room. He dove out the window, pulling Lyra with him, and they rolled into the garden. Draven roared, "Hunt them down." The chase began through the villa's garden. Jax ran for his life, with Lyra close behind, bullets chasing them like a swarm of angry bees. One man got close. Jax spun around, landing a judo punch to his jaw that made him stagger. He slit his throat with his knife, spraying blood. 2 other men rushed in with daggers. Jax dodged a thrust, used a taekwondo roundhouse kick to the first man's face, then threw the second to the ground. But their numbers were overwhelming. A bullet slammed into Jax's leg, and he collapsed, blood pouring from the wound. A memory of survival flashed through his mind in the Mexican desert. He had once escaped a cartel by rolling down a ravine. Now, he pulled Lyra over a wall and into a waiting car. Rex floored it, bullets shattering the rear windshield. They escaped Polanco and sped into the desert on the outskirts of Mexico City. The car bounced along the dirt road, headlights pursuing them from a distance. Draven's forces. Jax wiped the blood from his leg, gritting his teeth. "What are you hiding?" "Lyra," she was crying. "I didn't betray you," he must have guessed. Jax tentatively believed her, but his mind was filled with suspicion. Rex shouted, "They're right on us." Jax opened the back door and fired his rifle, taking out one of the pursuing vehicles. A loud explosion echoed as it burst into flames. But their car was hit by gunfire and flipped over. Jax was thrown into the desert, pulling Rex and Lyra to cover behind a rock. The convoy stopped, and the men fanned out to hunt them. Jax whispered, "I'll handle them. You stay put." He slipped into the desert darkness, his survival skills taking over. One man approached. Jax came up from behind and delivered a low kick, making him kneel. Jax cut his throat. A second man heard the sound and turned. But Jax charged, using jiu-jitsu to throw him onto the sand and punching him repeatedly in the face. Blood mixed with sand. The remaining 3 men fired blindly. But Jax threw a grenade. The explosion tore through the desert, taking out 2 of them. The last man rushed forward with a knife. Jax dodged, delivered an elbow to his throat, and he collapsed. The desert fell silent, with only the wind howling. Jax returned to help Rex and Lyra. Draven got away, he said, his voice low. Lyra held out a phone. "I overheard them. He's heading for the border to meet with the American officials." Jax clenched his fist. The hunt continues. But his wound throbbed, and the betrayal might run deeper. The Mexican desert swallowed the darkness, signaling that the battle was not yet over. At the Mexico-US border, Jax Thornwood confronted Victor Draven's final forces in a brutal battle of cars and hand-to-hand combat. Tensions climaxed with the sacrifice of his ally, Rex Harlan, and Jax uncovered the hidden truth about his family's death. With Draven cornered, the stage was set for a final showdown in an abandoned New York warehouse. This clue pushed the story to its peak, with Jax determined to end everything. The Mexican desert swallowed the darkness. But Jax Thornwood did not stop. His vehicle sped down the rugged dirt road, its headlights cutting through the dust, chasing Victor Draven's convoy toward the Mexico-US border. The wounds on his leg and arm were still bleeding from the escape in Polanco, aching like a burning fire. But Jax gritted his teeth and endured. Beside him, Rex Harlan drove, his face covered in scratches. They're 2 miles ahead. Draven's heading for the US, probably to meet his official protectors. Lyra Voss sat in the back, her hands clutching a gun. "My father won't escape. But you have to be careful, he has his last army with him." Jax nodded, memories of Emily and Lily fueling him. The hidden truth was now a sharp blade, ready to sever everything. Draven's convoy appeared ahead, 3 black SUVs speeding through the desert, kicking up a cloud of dust. Jax accelerated, closing in on the last vehicle. "Fire," he yelled. Rex opened the window, his M4 roaring as bullets slammed into the enemy's rear windshield, shattering it. The other car swerved, then rammed straight into Jax's vehicle. The shriek of colliding metal was deafening as the car flipped, rolling several times across the sand. Jax was thrown clear, his ears ringing, blood trickling from his forehead. Rex and Lyra also escaped, taking cover behind the wrecked car. Draven's forces stopped, and 10 assassins poured out, rifles ready, led by Draven himself, tall, with eyes as cold as ice. the scar on his face glinting in the moonlight. "Kill them!" Draven roared, unleashing his machine gun. Bullets whizzed by. Kicking up sand, Jax rolled away, pulling Lyra behind a large rock. "Stay here," he said, launching a counterattack. One man got close, and Jax delivered a low taekwondo kick to his knee, causing him to buckle. He locked the man's arm with jujitsu, snapping his neck. Hot blood mixed with the sand. Two other men charged with daggers. Jax dodged a thrust and landed a Muay Thai punch to the first man's jaw, shattering the bone. The second man swung his knife. Jax caught his wrist, twisted it, and plunged the blade into his thigh. The man screamed, and Jax finished him with an elbow to the throat. Rex sniped from behind cover, taking down 3 men in a flash, but a bullet slammed into his chest. Rex crumpled, blood spilling from his mouth. "Jax, keep going." Jax rushed over, pulling Rex to cover. "You have to live," but Rex shook his head, his eyes growing dim. "I know the truth. Draven framed you. Had Emily and Lily killed to cover up. The American officials." The words exploded in Jax's mind. The hidden truth. It wasn't just smuggling. Draven had framed him to keep him quiet about a weapons conspiracy. Fury erupted within him, and Jax roared, charging into the fight like a wild beast. Draven sneered, ordering his men to surround him. The remaining 4 men charged, their guns echoing across the desert. Jax rolled away and threw a smoke grenade, and white smoke enveloped the area. He closed in on one man, delivering a roundhouse kick to his face that sent him flying into the sand. The second man swung an iron pipe. Jax dodged, used a judo throw to take him down, then punched him repeatedly in the chest. Red blood stained the sand. But a man attacked from behind, stabbing a knife into Jax's back, soaking his shirt with blood. Pain surged through him. He spun around, delivering an elbow to the man's nose, shattering the bone. The last man fired from a distance, but Lyra rushed out, shooting him in the shoulder. "I won't let you die," she yelled. Jax turned to Draven, his eyes burning with rage. Draven pulled out a pistol and fired repeatedly. Jax rolled away, lunging forward like a panther. The two engaged in hand-to-hand combat in the middle of the desert. Draven punched Jax's wound, spraying blood, but Jax countered with a Muay Thai kick to the stomach, forcing him back. "You killed my family." "For a conspiracy," Jax roared, landing a straight punch to his jaw. Draven staggered, blood trickling from his mouth. "What do you know? We control the border." He lunged, throwing a low kick, but Jax dodged, using a capoeira spinning kick to his thigh that made Draven kneel. Jax pinned him to the sand, a knife at his throat. "Tell me the whole truth." Draven laughed bitterly. "I framed you. Had your wife and daughter killed to cover it up. American officials wanted the weapons to start a war. I was just a pawn." The confession was like a knife to Jax's heart. The hidden truth. Not just revenge, but a national conspiracy. But before Jax could act, Rex crawled over, using his last bit of strength to throw a grenade at the enemy vehicles. A massive explosion rocked the desert, engulfing it in flames and taking out the remaining assassins. Rex collapsed, his eyes lifeless. "Finish it," Jax screamed in agony, the sacrifice of his ally burning like fire. He left Draven unconscious and tied him up. "You'll live to see hell." Lyra wept beside Rex. "He saved us." Jax wiped the blood from his face, his heart heavy with tragedy. "I'll finish this in New York, the abandoned warehouse, where it all began." He dragged Draven into the remaining vehicle and drove toward the border. The desert was silent, filled only with the howling wind and the smell of smoke. The truth was now clear. but it had come at too high a price. Did Draven have one last trick up his sleeve, or would Jax's shadow justice prevail? The Mexico-US border was a blur under the moon, heralding the coming climax. In a final showdown at an abandoned warehouse in New York, Jax Thornwood and Victor Draven engaged in a fierce hand-to-hand battle amidst fire and ruin. With the intervention of Lyra Voss and an unexpected force of justice, the arms smuggling conspiracy was completely exposed. The story ends openly with Jax disappearing into the shadows, leaving questions about the future of his shadow justice and whether he will return when a new power emerges. The Mexico-US border was a blur under the waning moon, but Jax Thornwood had crossed it, dragging a tightly bound Victor Draven in the back seat. The wounds on his leg and back burned like fire, caked with dried blood. But Jax didn't stop. Rex Harlan's sacrifice still haunted him, his last words about the cover-up, about the protecting American officials. Jax looked at Lyra Voss beside him. "Are you sure you're not betraying me?" She shook her head, her eyes red. "My father has to pay. The warehouse in Queens, New York, that's where he hid the last piece of evidence." Jax gripped the steering wheel and sped toward New York. Vengeance for Emily, for Lily, and now for Rex. His shadow justice was nearing its end, but his heart was filled with doubt. Was this a final trap? They arrived in Queens at midnight. The abandoned warehouse stood isolated in a desolate industrial area, the cold wind howling through its rusted walls. Jax dragged Draven from the car and pushed him inside. It was pitch black, the air thick with the smell of mold and dust. Moonlight streamed through holes in the roof, illuminating piles of old crates. Jax tied Draven to an iron chair and checked his weapons, his Glock, his dagger, and one last grenade. "Tell me everything," he growled. The knife at his throat, Draven sneered, his scarred face defiant. "You think you've won? I have powerful friends in Washington. The weapons are just a small part. We want to control the border, start a war for profit." The confession cut like a knife, confirming everything, framing Jax, killing his family to silence him. Jax tightened his grip on the knife, a fire of rage erupting within him. Lyra stood guard outside. "Don't kill him yet. We need the evidence." But suddenly, a noise echoed from the distance, headlights flashed, and 3 black cars sped toward them. Draven's final squad, 8 elite assassins, poured out with rifles and grenades. "It's a trap!" Jax yelled, pulling Lyra behind a crate. Draven laughed maniacally. "They've come to save me." Bullets whizzed by, ricocheting off the metal with a loud clang. Jax returned fire with his Glock, hitting one man in the chest, spraying blood. Lyra fired, hitting another in the shoulder, and he screamed. But their numbers were overwhelming. They swarmed into the warehouse, kicking up clouds of dust. Jax burst from the shadows, delivering a taekwondo kick to the nearest man's chest that sent him flying into a wall. Before he could get up, Jax slit his throat with his dagger, blood staining the concrete floor. 2 others charged, one swinging a long knife, the other firing a pistol. Jax dodged the slash, used jiu-jitsu to lock the knife wielder's arm, and twisted his elbow back, then plunged the knife into his stomach. A scream echoed, but a bullet from the other man grazed Jax's ear. Drawing blood, he rolled away, delivering a Muay Thai punch to the shooter's jaw that shattered the bone. He collapsed, and Jax finished him with a roundhouse kick to the temple. Draven struggled against his bonds, pulling a hidden gun from his jacket and firing repeatedly at Jax. Jax rolled behind a crate as bullets slammed into the metal. Internal turmoil surged within him, memories of Emily lying in a pool of blood. Innocent Lily. The sacrifice of Rex, all because of this monster. "You're dead!" Jax roared, charging out like a wild animal. Draven fired, but Jax dodged and threw his smoke grenade. As white smoke enveloped them, he closed the distance, delivering a judo elbow to Draven's nose that sent blood flying. Draven countered, punching Jax's wounded leg hard, causing him to kneel, the pain like tearing flesh. The two men grappled on the floor, locked in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Draven choked Jax, snarling. "You're just a pawn," Jax struggled, landing a low kick to his stomach that made Draven recoil. Jax got to his feet, unleashing a flurry of capoeira moves, a roundhouse kick to the face, followed by a rapid succession of punches to the chest. Draven coughed up blood, but he drew a dagger and lunged. Jax dodged, grabbed his arm, twisted it, and plunged the dagger into Draven's own shoulder. He roared in pain and collapsed. Jax pinned him down, knife to his throat. "This is for Emily, for Lily, and for Rex." But before he could strike, the sound of police sirens echoed from a distance, accompanied by flashing red and blue lights. The forces of justice, federal agents, and the CIA stormed the warehouse, their guns aimed at the remaining assassins. The lead agent commanded, "Thornwood, stand down. We have a warrant for Draven's arrest. The plot was exposed thanks to the data you sent." Jax froze. He had sent a USB drive to his old CIA contact before coming to the warehouse. Lyra rushed over, hugging her groaning father. Why? Draven looked at his daughter, his eyes filled with bitterness. "You betrayed me, but I deserved it." The agents handcuffed him and led him away. The arms smuggling plot was foiled, the corrupt American officials exposed. But Jax stood silently, his heart heavy with a tragic victory. Justice had prevailed, but at too great a cost. His family was gone forever. As the police secured the scene, Jax slipped out the back door, melting into the New York shadows. Lyra ran after him. "Where are you going?" Jax turned back, his eyes soft. "My brand of justice isn't finished. New powers will rise." He disappeared into the rain, his tall figure fading away. New York returned to its version of peace. But a question hung in the air. When would Jax Thornwood return? Or would he forever remain a phantom, hunting evil from the shadows? The city slept, but his personal hell was still burning.